The number one thing when coming into a family business is you don't know as much as the people that are there.
Well, did you like coaching better than being president, or president better than coaching? I said, I have to be honest with you, both of them were wonderful.
Doug is excellent at you show up, you do the work. That will pay dividends long term. You show up, you build trust, you do the work, you have integrity.
Think about what it is that you're trying to build, and think about putting that list together of here's why we're going to be able to do it. It's all about the team. Another wonderful episode. So happy that you're with us, and so happy that we have Alexa Sweeney Blackann with us today, and we're going to have a great time together.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here, and I've admired your work for so many years and your commitment to the community. So it's a real honor to be here.
I think that's a way, viewers, for her to say I'm old.
Hardly.
She's, for so many years. But as I was thinking about our time together today, my daughter jumped into my mind because, we're all proud of our children, and my daughter had written a book about Blair Steel, which is a long-time company in Pennsylvania and Ohio, started in the iron business and went to the steel business, and as the steel business has changed, they went into the specialty steel, and she was commissioned to write an anthology of 200 years.
Oh my goodness.
Of a family business.
That's wonderful.
And that resonates with you. And the viewers are going to learn a lot about your family and your business and your experiences. And so in her book, I have to check my notes here to make sure, trust but verify, right?
Yes.
The Family Business Institute, in the book, they talked about, just to kind of set the stage as to how extraordinary this company's long run has been, is that only 30% of family businesses successfully pass along the business to the second generation. And only 12% successfully pass the family business to the third generation. And then less than 5% in the history of our country have passed it successfully on to the fourth generation. And viewers, we're going to learn a little bit about the Sweeney family business that went how many generations?
4. I was the 4th generation.
You were the 4th, so you were in that rarefied space.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't happen very often. And so we're fortunate to have Alexa with us today, because not only has she been the CEO of that 4th generation of the Sweeney auto business, and has it been, how many different models and makes did you guys...
Oh, goodness. We started as Stearns Motor Company in 1921, added a Buick franchise in the 30s. At that point, it was Eugene Hopper and Art Sweeney. Added the Chevy store in 1955. The day my father was born, we added that store.
Wow.
And from then on, we added GMC, Pontiac, and then the Pontiac franchise went away with the closure in 2009. So we operated 2 stores on Market Street, a Chevy store and a Buick GMC store.
Well, I remember being at the store over on Wick Avenue when I was a young coach here, and your dad was a young CEO.
He was.
He brought me in to talk to his sales group.
He did.
And that was probably, 40 years ago, I'm not sure. And I was nervous because, I hadn't done much of that. And I remember sitting, did he have an office that seemed like in the second floor kind of?
That does sound right, yeah.
Up this area. And I remember I was nervous getting ready to talk with him and then to see what has transpired. And so not only CEO, mother of
4 children.
4 children. Great husband, engineer. Josh is an engineer.
He is.
Now you're a Youngstown State grad.
So is he.
So, 2 proud penguins.
His master's.
Engineer and a business major. Those kids are going to be smart. They're going to make sure that they know their numbers, right?
For sure.
But so, to me, that's pretty cool. And so, thinking of personal family and your family business, what could you share with the viewers that you think are, as you think about it, and one thing we love to do on this is we love to have people kind of think through and reminisce of what lessons they learned. So what would be the lessons learned from your personal family and your business family?
A couple stand out. The number one thing when coming into a family business is you don't know as much as the people that are there. So it's really important that you are humble and you ask the right questions, you ask a lot of questions, and you give credit to the people on the ground for not only gratitude for making the time to train you and amplifying their expertise. That was really important to us. And then it's a real trust building exercise, right? They, over a decade or 20 years, we worked on this together, and so they have to respect you as part of the team and the future and buy into your vision of the future, but also know that they have a voice in that and that their opinion and their experience matters. So bringing those two things together were really important. And then Doug, my father, was famous for no one gets a walk-in leadership opportunity, right? You have to earn it. So we were really disciplined about coming up with a plan for how to train, how to work in every department, how to learn from the people that knew the part that they were doing, and then really earn their respect in those areas and then take a leadership role. And so when I got an opportunity to do the marketing for that, it's really where everything came together for me. It took my education and amplified it. And it really pulled all of those departments together, because a car dealership is very much like running 5 businesses in one. Service has different needs than parts. We had a specialty parts business that sold engine systems all over the world. And then new cars is different than used cars, for example. So the marketing part and communicating our story was really where that brought that together for me. Getting to message the brand and who we were in the community and make those relationships on the ground with the people that are doing this work in a broader context was really, really beneficial to my education.
So how many employees did you have?
We had a 200-person team. So it's pretty...
I can relate to that, listening to the people that know. I came as a president, and I had never been a president of a university. I'd been around universities forever, my whole life. Grew up on a university campus, just like you grew up in a, car world, but I'd never been the president. And probably the group that made the biggest impact on me were the students, who we created a group called the Presidential Mentors. And they were our customers. They were why we were there. And so I wanted to learn from them. And people asked me all the time, well, did you like coaching better than being president, or president better than coaching? And I said, I have to be honest with you, both of them were wonderful. Yeah. Because you were learning lessons from your players every day or from your students every day. And what I remember, having been in the community with the Sweeney businesses, since 1986, I had a little sabbatical into Columbus, but came back, but excellence was talked about all the time. And I'm sure from corporate, there are certain things they want you to focus on, but also your team. And so I wrote down 3 things that I recalled about your business family. Excellence was always talked about. Civic engagement was critical. The Sweeney, not just Doug Sweeney, or the family members, but your employees seemed to be everywhere. Every cause we had in this region, in fact, the Panerathon, the big marathon race, YSU and the Sweeneys would always battle to see who had 200 people there or who had how many, so civic engagement, and then philanthropy, because you guys have always appreciated the community you've been a part of, the people that have with the nursing scholarship for your mom, because your mom was a nurse and then went into that different world. But so let's ask that question. Mom and Dad, best lessons from Mom and Dad.
Oh, Doug is excellent at, you show up, you do the work, and that will pay dividends long term. You show up, you build trust, you do the work, you have integrity, and that will carry you far. And then my mom is just so, she's not a wallflower, so she'll tell you what you think. No. And she'll ask really good questions. She really wants to get to the why of why we're doing it, if we're on the right track. And so she's not only a really great leader, but a really great teammate to have on a committee, because she's pushing the whole group forward. So I would characterize both of those. And then they're both great at the commitment to the valley, the commitment to what it could be, jumping in where they can help. So I think my sisters and I all got a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, I know both your mom and dad were teammates of ours. We felt at Youngstown State. Your dad was very engaged with all of our programs. And your mom was with the county health department, wasn't she?
She was. She was the county health commissioner for Mahoning County.
Yeah, right. And she was down with us on a lot of different things. And especially when our international population started to grow, we had different sets of needs because, they couldn't go home.
Yes.
Their local physician wasn't here. They may have come from a place that the healthcare wasn't quite as much of a blessing as we have here. And I remember her helping us with a lot of the different things there. And you're right, she was not a wallflower. and your dad was kind of, in my experience, he was that steady leader. He never was too high or too low.
That's a good description. Yeah.
Yeah, and the team was critical.
Yes.
And he was not gonna be up on a pedestal and have his team not noticed.
Yes.
He was always kind of standing in the middle of the team, as I remember him. And we talk all the time about, and for you parents out there, it's so critical, the modeling and the example that you can give to your children or your employees when you happen to have a leadership role is critical. And to me, that's why it's exciting that as you've pivoted, going from running 3 or 4 businesses inside of a business to now taking on a whole region that, like all regions in the state or all regions in the country, who are looking for opportunities to attract families, to have great jobs, to make a difference in the community. What was your thinking as you thought, well, I might do that?
Well, I think I have to pivot and blame you a little bit for this.
You were encouraged by a lot of people. No, we recruited you, viewers, just so you know. The entire region recruited Alexa to come and take charge of what we call Lake to River Economic Development Region, which is part of JobsOhio, which is our Ohio conglomerate. And we have, 8 regions?
7 now.
7 regions. And so we recruited her because of her experiences, but because of her passion. But what was your thinking? I know we wanted you. Why did you want us?
I have loved this community forever and think that there's some leadership gaps in what we could do as a team. So this was a unique opportunity to take my experience in learning something completely new and hopefully advocate for the business opportunities in our 4 counties. And so it was just good timing and a good opportunity. But JobsOhio in the state is a unique economic development opportunity. It's a public-private sort of mix where the profits for liquor sales in the state of Ohio are managed by JobsOhio. And so it's not tax dollars, but it's net profits are then able to be leveraged to incentivize businesses to come here. So it allows for a privacy and a confidentiality, a whole culture of confidentiality at JobsOhio that the businesses are really pleased with. And then there's a long tail that you can offer a company support. So it's really unique in the context of the country for economic development. And so JobsOhio is the envy of some of our competing states nearby when you think of Indiana or Kentucky or Pennsylvania.
How many states have something like JobsOhio?
They all have sort of a mix, but a lot of times it's public dollars. They have to go back to the state legislature and ask for incentives every year. This gives them a longer tail of, here's the dollars we have, we're good stewards of the dollars, and we're reporting out what we're doing with them. So they know that for every dollar that they manage, they're bringing in $17 of taxes into the state for economic development. So they're being good stewards of the dollars, and that has allowed a lot of trust to be able to go out and incentivize companies to come here. So it is unique.
Yeah, and the little bit I've learned about JobsOhio is it's not just about the companies they bring, but I know they're very involved in the military things, and it seems to be an awfully broad scope.
Yes, they started, I think, in 1.0 is how they would characterize it, and then as they went to 2.0 with JP Nassif coming in 2019, they've been able to broaden their scope a little bit to the military federal, like you pointed out, but also in our area, additive manufacturing, automotive, the EV supply chain, and the questions that come with that are great. And then also, I think you'll see some more talent development. There's a lot of talk in our 4 counties about how do we retain, how do we attract, how do we return. And so I think we'll see some partnerships with JobsOhio as that moves forward for how to creatively incentivize people to come to the state to attract some of these jobs that we're being able to build.
One of the highlight things they've done most recently is the Intel project in, I guess, central east of Columbus type setting. One thing that I found interesting as a college president, so when Intel announced they were coming, and it's a multi-billion-dollar project. I forget what the number is. It's giant. And they came in and they talked to the college presidents about the fact that what they really needed our help with was the talent acquisition. And what was interesting to me was when you have a giant project like that happening, the supply chain that will be needed. And interestingly enough, not just in Central Ohio, because they'll be fighting over workforce, right? Because workforce, talent is something, I don't care if you're a football coach or you're a business, you got to have talent.
Yes.
And so if the supply chain can be spread throughout the state, that can be a big deal for all of us within the state. And so are those the kinds of things so here's JobsOhio, and now we have our region, Lake to River, from Lake Erie to the Ohio River, which, what a blessing that is, just thinking about having the lake or thinking about having the river and everything else. Is the supply chain project part of what we're working on now, Lake to River?
Absolutely. So that's a great point. We're uniquely situated in between the lake and the river for great water resources, great power resources, but also geographically, we're primed to be right in that supply chain. So in multiple areas. So not only the Intel and the CHIPS Act bringing reshoring of some of those supply chain items, but also the EV supply chain, additive manufacturing. So there's more than just one. So when you think about us geographically, we're well positioned with not a lot of more development opportunities than current build out, right? So we're looking forward to that opportunity, and that location really helps.
This episode is brought to you by Humtown, home to an incredible team of industrial athletes. They specialize in creating innovative, high-quality traditional and 3D printed sand molds for the automotive, aerospace, power generation, medical, and construction equipment industries. Humtown is a friend of the podcast. Their book, The Industrial Athlete Operating System, is an excellent read for anyone looking for ideas on building teams in any industry. Visit industrialathlete40.com. You'll find the link in the show notes.
So one thing I had the opportunity to learn as the president here, I didn't know the first thing of what additive manufacturing was.
Sure.
It didn't come up in football.
Sure.
And so when I got here and I saw that the Center for the Study of Additive Manufacturing for the entire country was right here, America Makes, I thought, well, I better figure out what additive manufacturing is. So if some of you viewers and listeners, as Alexa keeps talking about additive manufacturing, you might know it better as 3D printing, and a different way to manufacture, a more efficient way to manufacture. And so having some of those opportunities, is going to be a pretty special thing. So let me go back to my notes, because one of the reasons I think the region recruited you so hard to see if you'd be willing to do that is the number of boards that you've served on. And so obviously you had a lot of experiences from a network standpoint, but seeing all those different teams operate. And so for the viewers, remember, 4 kids running a big business, have to keep an engineer husband in line, lots of hard work, and she's on these boards. Youngstown Warren Regional Chamber, and I don't know if these were all at the same time, or they were?
They're current right now.
Oh,
yeah.
they're current. Youngstown State University Foundation, Better Business Bureau, Bright Energy Innovators, Akron Children's Hospital Foundation, the United Way, and the Public Library of Youngstown and Mahoning County. So there's about 7 different teams. So I want you to do a little daydreaming. Pick one of those, 2 of those as we go, and tell me what you think you learned about team building as being a board member. A board member is a different role on a team. Every role is important, but pick a board.
I think if I go back to even in my early 20s, having a family that has some is visible in the community gave me probably some opportunities other young people wouldn't have. And so there were board opportunities in my mid-20s when they were trying to fill a seat with someone younger.
Right.
And that gave me such a tremendous opportunity to see what it was like to be in the driver's seat without being in the driver's seat. And so that was tremendously valuable. And I think that just went from there, that love of the community and the leadership opportunities. But if I had to pick one, I'm so impressed with the work United Way does in our valley. Take this example of the explosion downtown. Youngstown has recently just been devastated with an unexpected explosion at the Chiefs building downtown. And United Way is one of those organizations that jumps in. They offer support. They're good stewards of the dollars, so people trust them in the community to do what they say they're going to do. And so they're in a unique position to offer help and connect the dots. But I like being a member of that board because they're always looking to partner with other people. And as a person who also funds some of these nonprofits, with our personal dollars, I love to see people working together. So when you're already calling Smarts or Oh Wow, or the YMCA to teach kids how to swim, they're working with the partners already on the ground, and that's really meaningful.
I remember during COVID, United Way really stepped up.
Yes.
I mean, I think they fed, I don't want to throw a number out there that I can't verify, thousands of families delivering food. And it was really kind of cool here at the university because a lot of our students quietly were the volunteers every Saturday morning taking bags of groceries. And you talk about working as a team. I went down there a couple times, and the process they had for getting 5,000 families fed or whatever it was incredible. And there's no question about it. And I think Bob Hannon, the president or CEO, whatever Bob is, you can tell his team is a well-oiled machine, and you can see no job is too small.
100%, yeah.
Right? I mean, those people, one day you see them at a banquet and, they're doing this and dressed up and whatever, and the next day you see them in jeans.
Yes.
Taking care. And education has been a big part of what the United Way, after-school programs and
YSU is a big help with that as well. They're doing report card mentoring. The teachers in training are out there doing
Project Pass with this reading and
the VITA program. The accountants at YSU are out there doing the taxes for.
Right.
I mean, it's really a great partnership.
But that's the fun of being on a team. And there's all kinds of teams. There's the team in your part of the world, and you have to do your business. Just like YSU, we had to do our business, but we also needed to help other people and be a part of their teams and work together. And so pick one more board that impressed you.
The library board is great. The YSU Foundation is tremendous. They're really all wonderful. I'm so lucky to be able to participate in any small way. I think the ones that are legacies are cool. My grandfather and my dad were both on the YSU Foundation board, and so to be asked to join and represent them, my grandfather would be thrilled.
That was an answer, viewers, that just like when people ask me, what was your best team or who was your best player, you dance around it a little bit, you've got to do that. And so I remember coming to Youngstown State in 1986, you probably weren't even born, and I was an assistant coach at Ohio State, and I remember people asking me all the time, well, why did you want to come here? And a story that I had learned from our head coach at Ohio State, his name was Earl Bruce, and I remember being in a staff meeting one time, and and he was talking a little bit about attitude and that type of thing. And he talked about an old man that was sitting by the city limits as you were going into a city in the ancient days. And he was just sitting there, and as people would walk to that village, and back in those days we didn't have highways and so forth, inevitably people would see the old man sitting there, and they would say, hey old man, what kind of place is this? And he would always say, well, what kind of place did you come from? And they'd say, oh, terrible, divisive, corrupt. It's just not good people out for themselves. And the old man would say, same thing here. Then the next person would come along and say, hey, old man, what kind of place is this? He said, well, what kind of place did you come from? It's all a great place. People worked together, people loved one another, they were always there to help, just there advancing. I come from a great place. And he said, same thing here. And it dawned on me as I was coming here and people started asking me, why did you come here and so forth, that our attitude toward what we want it to be is what it can be. And if we allow our attitude to be, well, I don't know why I came here, we didn't win enough games, I guess, with the last staff or whatever. I guess that's why. No, we came here because we think there's extraordinary things. So I made a list. Now, I was 32 years old, never been a head coach. I made a list after I'd heard that question so many times that I was going to be ready every time anyone asked me, why did you come here? I was going to tell them, these 50 things, okay? So why did you decide that, you could have gone and headhunters would want you to go to this city and they would want you to take over that business and the experiences you'd had, and you could have gone anywhere you wanted. And so why stay in this region to do this task, which, economic development, I don't care where you are in the world, is challenging. Why? What's your list?
Oh, that's a good question. I would love to compare lists, by the way. I think that'd be really fun as we develop our elevator pitch for the team.
Right.
I kept thinking, and some of the teammates in the region pointed out, we do a great job with philanthropy, but we don't necessarily put enough of that focus into economic development. And if we did, what if that rising tide lifted more boats? So we pointed out, right, that the Moranskis and the United Way are doing a great job with getting people right at the most, when they have the most amount of need. But what if we put some money into, or some effort into, economic development, creating more jobs or more opportunities? Could we raise everybody up a little bit more? And so that intrigued me, that idea I'd never considered. And so this door opened, and it felt like, so I'm so surprised and delighted by how much similarity there is between, and my peers in the JobsOhio network think this is hilarious, but the similarities between running a dealership and running this are similar. The community relationship part is important. The fact that you're sort of the network representative for a larger parent company on the ground, that they come to you to represent JobsOhio well in this market, is very similar to how we represented General Motors in the Youngstown area. We took that responsibility seriously, and we would try to leverage those General Motors opportunities into better opportunities for the community. So whether it was advertising dollars or those kinds of things, those are similar. And then, so that has been a delight. And then very much to circle back to what we talked about at the beginning, learning from people who are experts in this work and building a team, again, with experts in economic development when you are not necessarily the expert, feels very similar and a cool opportunity. So those were, I thought we could make a difference, and I still believe that. I would love to see, if I had one goal for this year, it would be to try and reduce some of the competitive nature of like a scarcity mindset we have as a group. As a community, sometimes we tend to think resources are too limited, so we have to compete for dollars or fundraising. I would love to see that same idea of what if we raised more boats if we did it together. I would love to see that come together if we get a year or two to get this off the ground the right way.
So viewers, an exercise for you as we're going to talk a little bit about why we're doing what we're doing. Think about what it is that you're trying to build, and think about putting that list together of here's why we're going to be able to do it. I never wanted to hear, why we couldn't.
Yes.
Always wanted to hear why we could. So our first one, and the giving philanthropic nature of this community was clearly one of the things I had on my list. I might not have known that as a young coach, but when I went out and started asking for some help, it became so apparent that help was at every turn.
That's a great point.
Then when I came back as the president, one of the biggest reasons was I looked at the size university we had, I looked at the size of our endowment, I compared it in the state, and I said, gosh, we're the, I think, 12th or 13th largest university in the public realm in Ohio. We have the 6th largest foundation, which means we've got a pretty philanthropic group that believes in what we're doing. And of the 78 total universities, public and private combined, I think we have the 11th largest foundation, which tells you that this community believes in education and believes in good causes, and so that clearly was one of mine. Think about that, viewers, as you think about who can help you build your team. That's an important group. All right, give me another one.
I am so impressed with the community coming together. I feel like if you also grew up in this area, from 1986 on, Trumbull County and Mahoning County did not do very much together. There was a little bit of a standoff, and the leadership on the ground has seen that we could do more together. So I would also echo that the Port Authority, Eastgate, the Chamber, the Youngstown Foundation, Wien Foundation, all of these people coming together to say we could do more together sets us apart, in ways we haven't been in a generation.
Well, and that's a recognition anyone that's building a team has to come to, is that the variety of the teams, all the teams need to work together as a team.
Yes.
And that was fun in an athletic department. At Ohio State, we had 36 sports. At Youngstown State, I think we have 21. And some of the most fun was seeing how the coaches could help each other. So we'd have coaches meetings, to learn, what are you doing in recruiting? What are you doing to help the academic success? Hey, what are you doing in community service? And getting those 21 sports to work together. And in my first stint here, the last 7 years, I was the athletic director. So it was fun trying to do that. Well, then I got to an Ohio State that had, I think, 36 sports, and I forget how many hundreds of employees, just a giant place. I thought, I wonder if we can get that going at this scope. And we really could. It was amazing how the coaches supported one another, the fan bases supported one another, the students supported one another. So getting your teams to work together, don't be afraid to go out and ask, hey, how can I help your team? And hey, here's how you can help my team. Okay, let's keep rolling.
I like it.
What else is on our list of here's why we can be good?
So if I go back to the JobsOhio, like why they agreed to do this, I think we have a great media market. I think we work well together in that context. I think some of the 8 principles that we would go back to for JobsOhio, like the site development, there's a proactive and a reactive site strategy that we're developing now with our partners in Ashtabula and Columbiana. So looking forward to some of those things. And the assets that we have that connect the lake to the river are really going to set us apart in this endeavor. So some of those kinds of things are really exciting to me.
Well, one of the things that relates to that I believed and I had on my list was location. I think 2/3 of the country's population is within a 10-hour drive.
Yes.
We used to always brag that we were halfway between
Yes.
New York and Chicago. I think there's a statistic that somewhere around 19% of all ground freight
Yes.
goes right through our community. Think about that.
Or I think we're less than a day's drive for a truck driver guidelines. We're less than a day's drive
Okay.
for, to your point, 86% of the country.
Yeah.
Right?
And We have water.
We do.
We have a lot of the natural gas play down in south of, it's part of your region.
Yes.
So I really thought location was important. In fact, we did kind of a crazy thing when we first came in 1986. We said, we're going to talk about the state of Youngstown and the surrounding communities that, hey, this is our home team. You know, Ohio State thinks of their home team as Ohio. You know, but we're going to create ours, and kind of stole that from the University of Miami. When the Hurricanes were really good back in the 80s and 90s, they talked about how they were really going to be strengthen that community of what they called the state of Miami. And it was really Orlando down. Because, you know, Florida was such a big state, and it's a long way from Tallahassee to Miami. And where could we create this team, this togetherness, this let's work together? And we used to always say we wanted at least 75% of our players from the state of Youngstown. Now, granted, we had to go out and get talent if we needed a certain position, and so we might have to go here or there. But we wanted to build that so that we felt that our team was part of the community. And that, to me, that location thing and that mindset that, you know, we're going to make a difference, you know, and all of you can do that wherever your team is located. Think about how you can make a difference. And we never could get over the hump to be national champions until we figured out that it was bigger than us.
Yes.
And it wasn't just about, well, we were going to get a ring or we were going to get a banner or whatever, but it was what impact, you know, could we make on that community? How could our team help the other teams in the community? So location was definitely on my list. Hey teammates, I want to tell you about a project we're working on with Youngstown State University. One of the ways Ellen and I have decided to give back is through the Tressel Institute for Leadership and Teamwork. We've collected a set of successful business and nonprofit leaders to serve as guest servant leaders in partnership with the Sokolov Honors College to teach university students teamwork, leadership, and personal skills. We teach from a foundation built on gratitude, excellence, hope, love, and selflessness. If you're a young person or parent helping to search for a unique college experience, you can learn more at tresselinstitute.ysu.edu or ysu.edu. Links will be provided in the show notes. Okay, I'm going to keep stretching you. What else is on your list?
What else is on my list?
I'm a lot older than you, so I got it. My list is longer because I've been going for 50 years at this. But
would you do? I'm curious about where your community assets would rank on there. The arts in particular, the library system.
Yep.
I mean, a world-class library system.
Yep.
The healthcare is going to be an interesting challenge to meet as we move forward. For example, in Ashtabula, there's no emergency care, so we have some opportunities there to make it better.
So let's stick with the arts one.
Yes.
Because I want to tell you that clearly was on my list, and you think, football, arts, how's that? But every year, we did a poster. And it was a way, viewers, that we wanted to show our community we were a part of them and we weren't just over by ourselves. So every year we did a poster where we had our seniors, and they would take a picture in front of something that was special about our region. So one year it was at the Butler Art Institute. Well, we did have one artist on our team, but wasn't that particular year. So we didn't have our guys were not, that wasn't their first interest, was art, but the message to the community was that, hey, I know we want people to go see the first museum of American art in the world. It sits right on our campus.
Right.
You know, and so we wanted our students to go over and see it, and so we took a picture of the Butler Art Institute. We took the picture out at the Ravenna Arsenal, sitting on tanks.
Okay.
Because we were proud that the 910th Airlift is here, and the Ravenna Arsenal is here, and that, you know, so our kids loved, you know, sitting on the, one time when we were rebuilding the Market Street South Avenue Bridge, and it took a couple years because this and that, Well, just as they were finishing it, we went up and we took a picture, on the South Avenue Bridge, because that was a big deal to our community. It was an artery that was important for the traffic for business and industry and the citizens. So having those Mill Creek Park, is that
Absolutely.
what the first state park?
I think it's second only to Central Park for a metro park of that size and that magnitude. I mean,
and we wanted to talk. So we, took a picture down at Lanterman's Mill or something with our guys, and so clearly integrating yourselves with maybe things that aren't a direct part of your team. Just like the United Way was not a direct part of Sweeney Chevrolet, but it was a part of that team community. And that's why it was important. So absolutely on my long list was the arts.
I mean, where do you have a symphony of our caliber in a community our size, or the Dior and Stambot and working together with the Playhouse to bring in, I mean, they're going to bring in Beautiful the musical this year, they're these with a Broadway caliber director, these are cool assets for our community that if we start to talk about them, we'll have an opportunity to bring more people to the table.
Well, and that was the kind of the title of my presentations when I first got here, when I go out there, is, hey, we don't brag enough.
Yeah.
And when I say we, it's wonderful here in the Youngstown, Warren area, but it's wonderful in all the areas that you all live.
Yes.
I mean, you got to brag about, it's like that guy sitting at the city limits. It's about what you think of it.
Yes.
And it's going to turn into what you think of it. And so we could sit here all day talking about specifically what we want to brag about, but really what we want to do is encourage the viewers to, make that list, make that long list so that you have those elevator speeches ready, so that you can have that whisper campaign, that, hey, did you know about such and such? And you talk about our symphony. One time, what we did was we put our seniors on risers.
Oh, yeah?
And we got in tuxedos. And I had a white tuxedo and they had black tuxedos, and I acted like,
Oh, I love it.
But we wanted the community to know that, go to those performances, but we got performances too, and so let's go to each other's performances. And it kind of started when I was a kid. As I mentioned, I grew up every day on a college campus, just like every day you were probably at a dealership somewhere, right? And so just by osmosis, you learned some things. But I remember my dad, who was the football coach, and he was the athletic director, made sure that we were at every play on campus, that we were at the Bach Festival, which my alma mater, Baldwin Wallace, has the Bach Festival, which is world-renowned, and that we were going to take part in that. And that's what I would encourage all of you to do, is take part in the things that maybe don't directly impact your team, but they impact all the teams. And you use the phrase that, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so one last thing I want to talk a little bit about is, and we used to talk about this with our teams all the time, is we had to dream, and we had to make plans, and we had to then really get to work. We had to get competent at what we're doing, and we had to, your service department had to be good at service.
Yes.
And I will tell you a funny story. I have this red GMC Sierra, and for whatever reason, in the winter, it would just not start. And we were living over in Medina, so I went over to a couple places to look. No, we can't see. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's going fine. And so then I'd go out, and it would stop. We'd be somewhere, and so it was 2 winters ago. My daughter was in from Santa Fe. My other daughter's family was in from Indiana. We were a big family gathering. My son was in Columbus, and all the crew was together. And my Santa Fe daughter wanted to go visit one of her buddies back in Youngstown, because she's a Youngstown girl, and she was going to visit. Well, wouldn't you know, she took my truck and it died, and that Christmas, it was like 10 below.
Oh, no.
Remember that Christmas 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
It was at 10 below. I said, oh my gosh, I got to call Doug Sweeney and I've had this thing to a whole bunch of different dealerships, and obviously they didn't figure it out. And so my daughter called you guys and this and that, and my truck has started every time.
Oh, that's great to hear.
So you have to get competent
Yes.
at what you're doing. So you have to dream big, and you have to make plans, and you have to work like crazy. And we used to always tell our players this, and then maybe the hardest step in success is you got to handle the ups and downs, because there's going to be those. I mean, that's just, I don't care what region of the country you're in or what business you're in, there's going to be days when you don't win. And there's going to be days when maybe the game plan wasn't right. You got to go back and look at the film and say, or go back and look at the marketing plan, or and say, hey, you know, this didn't win. So you've got to handle those ups and downs, and that's a huge part of building a team. That'll be a huge part of building your team at Lake to River. There'll be days when you get the site filled, and there'll be days when, I can't believe that went to wherever. But the final one was, we always talked about the fact that you really have to believe. You know, you really have to believe you'll do it. And if you don't believe you'll do it, then you might have the greatest plans and work like crazy and become very competent and handle those ups and downs. But if in the back of your mind you don't think you'll get there, I'm not sure you'll get there. So, as you sit and think about a daunting task, and there's lots of the people watching right now that are in daunting tasks, right?
Yes.
You know, that this is not an easy world. This is a global world. You know, that we don't have the corner on every market, right?
Sure.
So what is it that makes you believe that we can get this done?
I go back to the, a couple things. I think that there's an experience a learned experience of, at Sweeney, we lived through the closure of General Motors, we lived through a tornado, you know, we lived through COVID, which was terrifying at the time, like running a business with that cyclical nature and trying to be open to take care of customers when we didn't know what it was going to look like were some of the hardest things. This is hard in a different way, but a really cool way. And the thing that gives me the most amount of hope is the support we have in the community that you described, where if you call someone and ask for help, they're excited to help. People are calling us, bringing us their supply chain members, bringing us their business partners. We talked about Corollas earlier in the day. You know, people are looking for projects and looking for opportunities, and they want to see the community succeed. So that gives me the most amount of hope. They believe in us, right? And they're committed to making sure we succeed. So when we're all committed to that same goal, we can't fail.
Yep. Well, it's a little bit like in Youngstown, we always talk about that Youngstown grit.
Yes, yes.
And really, that's an American grit.
Yes.
I mean, we might sometimes feel like we have the corner on that market.
Fair.
But that's a national grit. And you know, it's not the easiest world going on right now, whether it's within our country or around the world. But look at our history. You know, we haven't been perfect.
Yes.
But we've had that grit and we've had that belief. And I'll leave you with one corny thing. Sometimes we have to get a little corny on this podcast. But when we came in 1986, I remember walking into the team meeting room. And I'd never been a head coach, so I didn't. And you know, these guys are kind of slouched back in their chairs, like, who's this kid coming in? He's 32 years old, and what's he gonna, you know? And you know, a lot of times when there's change, people aren't happy about it. And that's just part of the deal. So you knew, you know, some of them were like, well, we'll see, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember asking them, well, first of all, one thing I didn't like was I didn't see one Youngstown State apparel on. They had Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers and their high school t-shirt. And I'm thinking, we've got to change that. You got to be proud of where you come from. That's why, you know, I have to have my Y and my O, because, you know, 40 or so of my years of my professional life, you know, was spent at those two places. But I asked them to consider learning or memorizing this poem. And I want to end with this poem for our viewers. And it was corny. Now I'm talking to football players who were sitting back, like, and now I'm talking to them about a poem, okay?
Sure.
And I remember looking at him and said, okay, now you guys, I need you to learn this. I need you to say this and affirm this, because we're going to be the national champions. And so but we won't be until we believe it. And so I challenged him. I said, I hope it's while you're still here. You better hope it's because we're going to be the national champions. Because we're going to get to the point where we believe it. And so the poem goes like this. Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but she with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but she would be one who wouldn't say so till she tried. So she buckled right in with a trace of a grin on her face. If she worried, she hid it. And she started to sing as she tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and she did it. Team, Alexa Sweeney Blackann, I know she's a believer. She's going to do it for this region. You do it for your team. You do it for all the teams. Because, as we always say, it's all about the team. Hey team, thanks for listening to this episode with Alexa Sweeney Blackann. You know, it's so much fun trying to get good people together to build teams. There's nothing more exciting than good people working for a common cause. I know Alexa would love it if you reached out directly to her, whether you have some ideas how you could help coach her as she's building this team or give her some advice, or even if you're looking for economic development opportunities or site selections or whatever. She's open for all comers, and make sure that you know we believe it's all about the team.
There was plays to be made, and it just felt like we had a consistent group that wasn't going to shy away from it.
The most important team in everyone's life at the outset is one's family.
When people are willing to give up of themselves and, do more than the norm, I think that allows you to trust on the field a little bit more.
Your last game was the Sugar Bowl against Arkansas.
Yeah.
And is that when you knocked Marcus's teeth out? Or was that the Michigan game?
Wait, I knocked Marcus's teeth out?
Going through the hard times is what builds you.
My dad had a legacy in Pittsburgh, but I wanted to continue to build on mine.